Have you ever wondered how these massive applications can handle millions of background tasks without just imploding? Well, today, we're going to dissect a really powerful architecture in Go that turns that potential chaos into clean, scalable order. If you're building any kind of long-running service, you are definitely going to want to see this. Let's dive in. I mean, really think about it for a second. Every single time you get an email notification or see a report generate or you upload an image, a background task is running. Now, multiply that by millions of users. How in the world do you manage that massive workload concurrently and safely without the whole system just grinding to a halt? Because if you don't have a solid plan, what you get is chaos. You get memory leaks, you get out-of-control Goroutines, and you get that dreaded cascading failure, where one overloaded service creates this domino effect that takes down your entire application. It is a developer's worst nightmare. The solution isn't just to throw more servers at it. It's all about smarter design. So here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the challenge itself, then we'll introduce the core philosophy behind this architecture. We'll meet the key players, see why this whole thing is so effective, and finally, we'll explore the powerful principle that really makes it all tick. Okay, so first, let's really frame the challenge. We're not just trying to run a few jobs here and there. We need a system that is robust, that is scalable, that's easy to test, and maybe most importantly, safe to operate in production. This is about building a system that you can actually trust to run reliably 24/7. And look, we're not talking about some obscure niche problems here. This is the bread and butter of modern backend systems. We're talking about sending millions of emails, syncing huge amounts of data, processing images, generating reports. These are the foundational tasks that pretty much every application relies on to function. So, how do we tame all this complexity? Well, the solution is an architecture that's built on a really simple but powerful philosophy, giving every single component one clear role. This right here is the core idea of the entire explainer. There is no magic. There's no secret sauce. It's just a radical, almost obsessive separation of responsibilities. Each part of the system has exactly one job, and it does that one job perfectly, without getting in the way of the others. And when you look at it from a high level, the flow is just beautifully simple. First, something we call the puller decides a job needs to happen and creates it. Second, the dispatcher acts like a traffic cop, and it routes that job to the right place. And finally, a worker picks up the job and actually does the work. That's it. That's the entire process. Simple, clear, and totally controlled. Now, let's dive a little deeper and properly meet the key players. And to make this crystal clear, we're going to use an analogy that I think you'll find helpful. We're going to run a busy restaurant kitchen. It all starts with the job. This is the smallest, indivisible unit of work you can have. In our kitchen, this is the order ticket that the printer spits out. It's a single, self-contained instruction. Caesar salad, no croutons. It's specific, and it can be handled all on its own. Next up, the worker. In our kitchen, this is the line cook at the salad station. They don't think about what orders are coming in or how busy the restaurant is. They just grab the very next ticket from the rail and make the salad. Their job is simple: execute the task that's right in front of them. Then you've got the dispatcher, and this is the expediter at the kitchen window. You could argue this is the most crucial role for keeping things orderly. They grab the incoming tickets and route them to the right station. Salads go here, steaks go to the grill. And most importantly, they make sure no single cook gets buried in orders. They control the flow. And finally, we have the puller. This is the system's brain. In our kitchen, this is the head chef. Now, the chef isn't making salads, right? They're out observing the dining room. They see a long line forming, they check the lettuce supply, and they make a strategic decision. We need to prep 10 more salads right now. The puller decides what work needs to be created and when. And here is the key separation, the thing that makes it all click. The puller is strategic. It decides what to do and when to do it. The worker is tactical. It only cares about how to do it. This clean, clear boundary is the secret to the whole system. This brings us to the first golden rule of this architecture. Workers execute work. They never decide what work to run. They are completely ignorant of the bigger picture. And you know what? That's their superpower. It's what makes them so simple and incredibly efficient. And the second golden rule is just the other side of that same coin. The puller decides when and what to run, but never, ever how. Its only job is to look at the state of the world, make a decision, and create a task. It doesn't execute anything. So the big takeaway here is simple. These strict, non-negotiable boundaries between roles are what create all the clarity and power. Okay, so we've met all the players, but why does this separation of roles matter so much in a real-world, messy production environment? Let's get into the awesome operational benefits. This is where the design is an absolute lifesaver: safety. The dispatcher, with its job queues, acts as a natural circuit breaker. Each service, like email, has its own queue with a fixed size. So if the email service gets slammed with requests, its queue just fills up. It doesn't spill over and crash the image processing service. This isolation is exactly what prevents those catastrophic, system-wide failures. And the operational wins just keep stacking up. Need to handle more traffic? No problem. Just scale your worker pools for each service independently. Want to monitor performance? Well, each component is a clear boundary for metrics and logging. You can fine-tune the resources for email processing without ever touching the report generation service. And under heavy load, the system doesn't just fall over, it degrades gracefully. It becomes predictable and manageable. And for all you engineers watching, this is a massive win: testability. Because each component has a single job, you can test them in perfect isolation. You can test the poller's decision-making logic without ever running a real worker. You can test a single worker's execution without needing a poller at all. This means you get fast, reliable tests with no flaky timing issues. So the big lesson here: good architecture makes for easy testing, not the other way around. Which brings us to our final and, honestly, most important point. Let's tie all of this together and really focus on that central theme: the incredible power of separation. And here it is, the entire architecture all in one picture. 4 totally distinct responsibilities. Decision-making belongs to the poller. Routing and scaling belongs to the dispatcher. Execution is the worker's job, and the business logic lives inside the job itself. Each piece is so simple on its own, but together they create this incredibly robust system. And that's the real genius of this pattern. You can start small. It's simple enough to use in a weekend project, but it has the architectural DNA to scale up and handle massive, production-level traffic without ever needing a complete rewrite. So I'll leave you with this final thought. This core principle of separating the what from the how is just incredibly powerful. And it's not just for background jobs. Take a look at your own systems. Where else could you apply this kind of separation to turn a complex, tangled problem into something that's simple, clear, and scalable?